We're now, in terms of looking at self-identity, we're looking down the wrong end of a frickin' telescope. They're getting minute. I am LGB, blah, 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 blah. And what it's doing, every time you subdivide into a smaller perception of self, you are getting further and further and further away from the true self.
Hi, it's Rob Moore here, and over a year ago I interviewed David Icke for my podcast, The Disruptive Entrepreneur, and this YouTube channel. Content about 5G, the virus, is getting banned all over the place by YouTube. So this excerpt is from an interview more than a year ago where I think you'll find it very interesting, some of the predictions David made about maybe what's happening now. Make sure you subscribe to the channel right now in case this video gets taken down, and let's go to the clip interview with David Icke.
We live in a equivalent of a Wi-Fi internet field. I call it the cosmic internet. They're quantum fields of possibility and probability waiting to manifest. I've got a computer here, and what appears on that screen is dictated by what part of the internet I access. That dictates what appears on that screen. In the same way, what part of these quantum fields of possibility and probability I access and turn into experience, in a way I'll describe in a second, dictates what appears on my screen. In other words, dictates my own life experience. If you live your life within the parameters and the program of the postage stamp consensus, then you are interacting with this quantum field of possibility and probability in a very narrow band of frequency. So the potential you have to manifest experience in your life and achievement, if you like for a word, in your life is limited by that. Once you expand your self-identity, as I'll come to in a second, and your consciousness expands, and your sense of the possible expands, you're now interacting with this quantum field of possibility and probability in a much vaster swathe. And therefore, your potential for manifestation of experience, for manifestation of achievement, for manifestation of the world, the life you'd want, becomes massively expanded. Take the Chinese internet. It is firewalled off so that Chinese people can only access a fraction of the internet, symbolic of this postage stamp consensus mentality. But beyond those firewalls is a vastness of possibility with the internet that they never see, information they never access. And what dictates our interaction with this possibility and probability is our self-identity, seems to me. If you believe that you are little me and have no power, then that manifests itself as the frequency band you're operating on, and it's very narrow. Coming back to the simplest analogy, it's someone who sees the glass half empty or the glass half full. That's a completely different perception of the same situation. And what will come from those two perceptions will be very different experiences of that glass compared with the other. And for me, we have got caught, and this is the very foundation of the perceptual manipulation. We have got caught in the illusion systematically that what we're experiencing is who we are. People self-identify with their labels. I am a man, I am a woman, I am black, I am Jewish, I am Muslim, I am this, I am that. And if you look at political correctness and this whole transgender explosion.
Transgender.
Yeah.
Go on, do it. Say what you want.
Don't even start.
No, we'll be another 2 hours.
Don't start me off. Because that's a complete scam. It's not about, just a very quick aside, it's not about respecting people who feel they're in the wrong body. It's not about that. That's just the excuse. It's about divide and rule. We now have feminists and transgender people in conflict. It's another fault line, but there's really very much more to it than that, and it goes very deep. But what that's doing, if you look at it, it's creating subdivisions and subdivisions and subdivisions of self-identity. We're now, in terms of looking at self-identity, we're looking down the wrong end of a frickin' telescope. They're getting minute. I am LGB, blah, 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 blah. And what it's doing, every time you subdivide into a smaller perception of self, you are getting further and further and further away from the true self, which is consciousness. Consciousness that's having that experience. When people have near-death experiences and leave the body and suddenly experience a vastly different reality, they've left the body. So what has left the body? Consciousness. Their point of awareness. We are in our prime form a state of awareness, a state of being aware. What the body does, I call it a biological computer, is it when we experience through the body, when that consciousness experiences through the body focuses the attention of that consciousness in a tiny band of frequency known as visible light, which is so tiny it's laughable, and that's all that we can see. We don't actually live in a world, we live in a band of frequency. And beyond that frequency is infinity, which we can't see. You know, if you tune to Radio 1, you tune a radio to Radio 1 or a television channel, television to BBC 1, that's what you get. You don't get BBC 2, that doesn't exist to BBC 1. You don't get Radio 2, that doesn't exist to Radio 1. You get Radio 1. And so the body is tuning us and focusing our attention in a narrow band of frequency. It's an experience. And these experiences are given labels like Christian, white, black, brown, Jewish, Islam, Hindu, right? What happens is, and this is what the program encourages, of course, is people self-identify with those labels and they say, that is me. I am my income bracket. I am my life story. I am my race. I am my culture. No. They are what your consciousness is experiencing, your point of attention. And you know you, Mr. Islamic man, and you, Mr. Jewish man, and you, Mr. Christian man, and you, Mr. White man, you, Mr. Black man, you, Mr. Asian man, you're all points of attention of the same infinite consciousness. And because you have become so programmed to believe that your labels are you, you are fighting each other for power.
To hold on to an identity.
To hold on to impose in many ways an identity that is merely an illusion of incredibly short experience. When you leave the body, your consciousness leaves the body at a near-death experience, for instance, and I've read endless accounts all over the world of people. The common themes are incredible. They don't say, "Oh, I'm out of the body now, but I'm still a Muslim. I'm still a Hindu. I'm still a this. I'm still a that." No. They are consciousness. Consciousness, awareness, a state. That's what we are. And so, when in the body, you can stop self-identifying with the labels and start to self-identify with being the consciousness, everything changes. Because what self-identification with labels does is it focuses attention, And your interaction with the cosmic field of probability and possibility is limited by that focus of attention within that frequency. Once you say, they are my experiences, I am the infinite awareness having those experiences, you start to interact with possibility and probability on a vastly greater scale. And suddenly, life becomes an adventure. Suddenly, your life changes. People that represent the old frequency of your life, they disappear. New people come in, new opportunities happen, amazing coincidences happen that didn't happen before. Oh, it's a miracle. Fancy me? No, it's not a miracle. You're interacting with possibility and probability on a vaster scale. Therefore, probability and possibilities happen in a more extraordinary way than they do when you're there. And this is, when you do the research and you realize what is actually manipulating this world, you realize that while the vast majority of people that are making decisions every day, like politicians and people, etc., are overwhelmingly 99.999% clueless about reality, as are most scientists, vast majority of scientists and doctors and all of them, deep in the shadows, out of the public arena, where it's all coming from, they understand how this works. They know that if they can hijack your perception, they can hijack your experience by this feedback interaction between your perception, which creates your frequency band of interaction with the cosmic field of possibility and probability. The more they can contract our sense of self, the more they can control our life experiences and suppress it to the point where we're no problem to them.